Have you ever looked at them, really looked at them, and wondered how someone so arrogant can have so little to show for it? You remember the grand stories, the name-dropping, and the way they walked as if they owned the very ground beneath them. But eventually, the golden glitter started to flake off, didn't it? You began to notice the unpaid bills, the borrowed cars, and the strange way they always seemed to be one crisis away from ruin. It is a haunting contradiction that we don't talk about enough in the world of recovery. We see these people as high-powered villains or master manipulators, but so often, when you pull back the curtain, the wizard is just a broke, desperate person living in a house of cards. They talk like kings while living like nomads, jumping from one person's couch to another, leaving a trail of debt and broken promises in their wake as they go. I want to welcome you into this space today because I know how confusing it is to be told you are less than by someone who can't even manage their own basic reality. You were likely the one holding everything together while they spent your shared future on an image that didn't even exist. Today, we are going to look at the poverty of the narcissist, not just the empty bank account, but the hollowed-out soul that causes it. Why is it that these individuals, who claim to be the smartest people in every room, so often end up with absolutely nothing? You've seen it, the midlife collapse where they have no savings, no property, and no stability. It's a recurring theme in the lives of survivors. You move on and build a life of genuine substance, while they remain trapped in a cycle of lack, forever chasing a ghost that they will never actually catch. Perhaps you felt guilty for their struggle. You saw them floundering and thought, if I just help them get on their feet, they'll finally be okay. But no matter how much water you poured into their bucket, it stayed empty. That's because the hole isn't in their wallet, it's in their very foundation. They aren't just unlucky or misunderstood by the world. They are the architects of their own scarcity and your own pain. There is a specific kind of darkness in realizing that the person you feared or idolized is actually quite pathetic in the most literal sense of the word. It's a slow-burn realization that their grandeur was just a loud noise meant to distract you from the fact that they have no roots. They are like tumbleweeds, rolling wherever the wind blows, never staying long enough to grow anything of real value or lasting importance. You might find yourself asking if they are doing this on purpose. Do they want to be broke? Do they enjoy the chaos of having nothing? The truth is much more complex and far more chilling than a simple choice. It is the natural, inevitable result of a personality that is designed to consume rather than create. When your entire life is built on extraction, you eventually run out of things to take, and that is when the true silence begins. This script is for the person who is tired of being the safety net, for someone who never intended to learn how to fly. It's for the survivor who realized they were being drained of their own resources to fuel a fantasy that only served the narcissist's ego. We are going to peel back the layers of this psychological mystery and reveal why the God complex so frequently ends in a very cold, lonely, and impoverished reality. Think back to the last time they asked you for help. There was a sense of urgency, right? A temporary setback that felt like a life or the death emergency. They made you feel like you were the cruel one if you didn't step in. But if you look at the timeline of their life, you'll see that the emergency never actually ends. It just changes shape. The lack is their permanent residence, and they just want you to pay the rent. By the end of our time together, you won't see their poverty as a tragedy you need to fix. You will see it as the logical conclusion of their behavior. You will understand that their inability to hold on to money, relationships, or peace is a direct reflection of their internal void. It is time to stop feeling sorry for a black hole and start protecting the light you have worked so hard to build. Let's look at the mechanics of their self-destruction. To understand why a narcissist lacks everything, you have to understand their relationship with effort. To a narcissist, work is for ordinary people. They believe they are so fundamentally special that the world should simply hand them the rewards without them having to endure the process. This is the seed of their poverty. They spend years waiting for a big break that never comes, while you are out there planting the seeds for a harvest. They live in a state of terminal entitlement. In their mind, having to work a 9-to-5 job or save money is a personal insult to their greatness. They would rather be broke and important than stable and average. This is why they often quit jobs abruptly or burn bridges with mentors. They cannot handle being a student, they must be the master. And since the world doesn't work that way, they stay stuck at the very bottom of the ladder. There is also the issue of the shame-spending cycle. Narcissists use external things to regulate their internal sense of worthlessness. When they feel low, they don't do the inner work. They go out and buy a designer watch they can't afford or a car with a high-interest loan. They are desperately trying to purchase a personality. They aren't buying goods. They are buying an escape from the person they see in the mirror. This creates a financial life that is a total illusion. You might see them posting photos of a luxury vacation or a fancy meal, but you don't see the 3 maxed-out credit cards behind the camera. They are willing to starve next week if it means looking successful today. It's a hollow performance where the audience is everyone they know, and the price of admission is their own long-term survival. It is truly a tragic way to live. Beyond the money, there is a fundamental lack of object constancy in their goals. A narcissist gets bored the moment things get difficult. They love the newness of a project or a business idea, but they lack the psychological stamina to see it through the boring middle phase. They are hunters who refuse to farm. When the easy prey is gone, they go hungry, while the people around them are building silos full of grain. Have you ever noticed how they blame the economy, their boss, or even you for their financial failures? This is called externalization. By never taking responsibility for their lack, they ensure they can never fix it. If the problem is always out there, then the solution can never be in here. They are trapped in a feedback loop of victimhood, where being wronged by the world is a more comfortable story than being lazy and entitled. They also suffer from what I call relational bankruptcy. Most people get ahead in life through community, trust, and mutual support. But a narcissist burns every bridge they cross. They view people as tools to be used and discarded. Eventually, word gets around. They lose the social capital that leads to job offers, investments, and help. They find themselves in a desert of their own making, wondering why no one is there to help. Their lack is also driven by a desperate need for instant gratification. They cannot wait for anything. If they have $1, they spend it now because the future doesn't feel real to them, only the current high of the ego matters. This impulsivity is the enemy of wealth and stability. While you are thinking about 5 years from now, they are only thinking about the next 5 minutes. They are perpetually eating their own seed corn. Think of their life as a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. No matter how much success, money, or love you pour into it, it will eventually drain out. They don't have the emotional container to hold on to goodness. They have a poverty mindset because they believe resources are scarce and must be stolen. They don't understand that true abundance is grown from within, through character, consistency, and a very quiet kind of grit. This is why, even when they get a windfall, an inheritance or a big win, it's gone within months. They don't know how to coexist with enough. They only know how to exist in not enough or too much. The middle ground of peace and stability feels like death to them because there is no drama there. They would rather be a spectacular failure than a quiet success. And so, they choose the path of lack over and over and over again. There is a moment in every narcissist's life where the charm stops working. Usually, this happens when they hit their late 30s or 40s. The potential they used to sell to people starts to look like a lie. People stop saying they're going places and start saying, what's wrong with them? This is the turning point where their internal poverty becomes an external reality that they can no longer hide from the world or themselves. This is often when the mask starts to crack with you. You realize that you aren't a partner, you are a patron. You are the one funding their brilliance, while they do nothing but criticize your small-mindedness. The dramatic shift happens when you stop providing the fuel. When you say no to the loan or no to the excuse, the narcissist doesn't just get angry, they panic. Because without you, they have absolutely nothing to stand on. Watch how they react when they lose their source of supply. They don't go out and get a job, they go out and find a new victim to leech off of. But here's the twist, as they get older, the quality of their supply drops. They can't land the high-value partners anymore. They end up with people who are just as broken as they are, or they end up completely alone. The empire they promise to build ends up being a dirty studio apartment. This is the collapse phase. It's dramatic and ugly. They might threaten self-harm or create a massive medical crisis to get people to pay attention and pay bills. They use their lack as a weapon to guilt you into staying. It's a perverse form of power. They realize that if they can't be the king, they can at least be the most pathetic person you've ever known, forcing you to remain their caretaker out of a sense of duty. But you've changed. You've started to see the pattern. You realize that their bad luck is actually a series of calculated choices. The turning point isn't just about their failure, it's about your clarity. You see them standing in the ruins of their life, blaming the wind for the fire they started themselves. And for the first time, you don't feel the urge to grab a bucket of water. You just watch the smoke rise in the distance. It's a chilling scene, isn't it? Seeing someone who once felt so large and intimidating become so small and needy. They try to use the old tricks, the grand promises, the "I've changed" speech, but the words fall flat because there is no weight behind them. They have no history of follow-through. They are a library full of empty books, and you have finally started reading between the lines. The story they are telling is over. The power shift is absolute. When you realize that they need you 1,000 times more than you ever needed them, the fear evaporates. You were the one with the bank account, the career, the friendships, and the future. They were just a parasite mimicking a predator. As you step back, they begin to shrivel. This is the reality of the narcissist. They are only as powerful as the person they are currently draining of energy. They will try to make their poverty your fault. They will tell everyone that you took everything, or that you abandoned them in their time of need. They are trying to rewrite the script so they can remain the hero victim. But the truth is written in the receipts. It's written in the years of your life they wasted and the money they burned. The turning point is when you decide that their debt is no longer your responsibility to pay. You start to see their lack as a protective barrier. Their poverty keeps them from having the resources to hurt more people. It is a natural limit placed upon them by a world that eventually demands results. They have failed the test of reality. While it feels cruel to say, their struggle is the only thing that might force them to look inward. But usually, they just spend their last dollar on a mirror to look at themselves. Take a moment to breathe here. Feel the weight lifting off your shoulders. You are not the reason they are broke. You are not the reason they are lonely. You were just the person who tried to stop the inevitable. But the inevitable has arrived. They are facing the consequences of a life lived without integrity, and you are finally free to walk toward a life of true, earned abundance. The cycle of your sacrifice is finally broken. The long-term consequences for a narcissist are a slow descent into a very specific kind of irrelevance. As they age, their physical beauty or youthful charm, their primary currency, begins to fade. Without that shiny exterior to distract people, their lack of character becomes glaringly obvious. They become the old person at the bar, telling stories about a greatness that never actually happened, to people who don't care. Their physical environment often reflects their internal state. Have you noticed how their spaces are often cluttered, broken, or temporary? They don't maintain things because they don't value anything they can't immediately use. The poverty manifests as a broken-down car they refuse to fix, a messy home, or a wardrobe of expensive clothes that are stained and torn. They are a mess, and eventually, the mess swallows them whole. They also lose the safety net of family. Narcissists often treat their children or siblings as extensions of themselves. But eventually, those people grow up and get therapy. They go, no contact. The narcissist ends up in a house that is silent, save for the sound of their own voice complaining to the walls. The consequence of a life without empathy is a death without company. It is the ultimate form of spiritual poverty. Think about the energy it takes to maintain a lie for decades. By the time they reach the collapse stage, they are exhausted. They don't have the fire anymore to start a new scam. They settle into a bitter, stagnant existence. They spend their days scrolling through social media, stalking the people they used to know, feeling a toxic envy for every win those people have. Their life becomes a museum of what could have been. The financial consequences are often permanent. Because they never learned to save or invest in themselves, they have no foundation. They are the people who are still trying to hustle at 65, not out of passion, but out of desperate necessity. They have no graceful retirement because they never put in the graceful work. They are haunted by the ghosts of every bridge they burned and every dollar they threw away. There is a harsh truth here. Narcissists are often bottom feeders. They find themselves in social circles of other manipulative, broken people because healthy, successful people won't have them. They are surrounded by friends who would steal from them in a heartbeat, just as they would do the same. It is a shark tank with no water, just a bunch of predators gasping for air and biting at each other's tails in the dark. They also lose the ability to feel genuine joy. Because they are always looking for the next hit of validation, they can't appreciate a simple sunset or a quiet cup of coffee. Their life is a constant state of lack, because no matter how much they have, it's never enough to fill the void. They are starving at a banquet. The consequence of their narcissism is that they are forever barred from the very thing they want. Peace. You might see them try to hoover you back during this phase. They will use their poverty as a lure, hoping your empathy will override your logic. I have no one else, they will cry. And it's true, but it's not because of bad luck. It's because they pushed everyone else away. They are trying to make their consequence your problem. But you have to remember that you can't save someone from a hole they are still digging. The most brutal consequence is the loss of their own narrative. They eventually realize, at least on some level, that they aren't the hero. They are the villain in everyone else's story, or worse, a side character that has been forgotten. That realization is the ultimate poverty. To a narcissist, being ignored is a fate worse than being hated. They are fading into the background of a world that has moved on without them. This is the dark night of the soul that never ends for them because they refuse to see the light. They stay in the basement of their own ego, surrounded by the junk of their failed lives. It is a stark, honest, and unflinching reality. But as you look at this scene, I want you to realize something very important. You are no longer in that basement with them. You have climbed the stairs, opened the door, and walked out. Now we turn to you. For a long time, you lived in sympathetic poverty. You were so worried about their lack that you neglected your own abundance. You poured your time, your money, and your spirit into a black hole. But today that stops. Healing begins when you realize that your wealth, your capacity for love, your work ethic, your integrity, was never theirs to take. It was always yours, and it is still there. True abundance is not just about the numbers in your bank account, though financial stability is a beautiful part of recovery. True abundance is the ability to sleep through the night without wondering what lie you have to cover up. It is the peace of knowing that your life is built on a foundation of truth. You have something the narcissist will never, ever possess. The ability to build something that actually lasts. I want you to forgive yourself for the investment you lost. Maybe you lost years of your career, or your savings, or your house. That is a heavy burden, and it is okay to grieve it. But remember this, you have the machinery to build it back. You have the character and the discipline that they lack. You can recreate wealth. They can only consume it. You are a creator, and that makes you infinitely more powerful than they are. Look at your life now. Even if you are starting from zero, you are starting from a clean zero. There are no more hidden debts, no more emotional blackmail, and no more emergencies that aren't yours. That clarity is worth more than gold. You are now the sole CEO of your existence. Every bit of effort you put in now will actually come back to you. The leak in your life has finally been plugged with the truth. The narcissist's poverty is a lesson in what happens when you try to shortcut the laws of the universe. You cannot have harvest without planting. You cannot have love without empathy. You cannot have peace without honesty. By watching their collapse, you have gained a PhD in human nature. You have seen the end of the entitlement path, and you have chosen a different road, a road of substance and real connection. I want you to reclaim your sense of worth. You were never too much, and you were never not enough. You were simply dealing with someone who was empty. Their inability to value you had nothing to do with your value and everything to do with their lack of a value meter. You are a masterpiece that was being appraised by someone who is colorblind. Their poverty of vision does not change the colors on your canvas. As you move forward, you will notice that you attract a different kind of person. You will attract people who have their own fullness. You will find partners and friends who don't need you to pay their way, emotionally or financially. You will build a community of mutual respect. This is the earned empowerment of the survivor. You have been through the fire, and you have come out not just alive, but refined and strong. If you ever feel tempted to look back or to check on them, remember the image of the empty bucket. There is nothing for you there. Any contact you have with them will only lead back to their lack. They don't have wisdom to give you, they don't have closure to offer you, and they certainly don't have love. They only have their void. Leave them to it. Your energy is a precious resource. Save it for the life you are building. You are now a person of deep, quiet substance. You don't need to brag or perform because your reality speaks for itself. Your abundance is visible in the way you carry yourself and the way you treat others. You have turned your trauma into a lighthouse. You are now the person who knows the secret, that the loudest people are usually the emptiest, and the quietest souls are often the ones who are truly, deeply wealthy. This is the final truth you must carry with you as you walk away from the ruins and toward your bright, open future. The narcissists spent their life trying to convince you that you were the one who lacked everything, while they were the ones who were fundamentally bankrupt from the very start. You didn't lose anything by leaving them, you simply stopped funding a fantasy that was never going to pay out. A person with a hollow heart can never build a home, but a soul with integrity can never truly be poor. Have you ever looked at them, really looked at them, and wondered how someone so arrogant can have so